there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. So, much like the last couple weeks, this is another slow week for the market. I'll be honest, there's not a whole lot happening here. Everything is pretty steady. There's a couple interesting stories, some spikes here and there, but for the most part, things are pretty calm, especially in the world of Standard. Now, Wizards made an announcement yesterday that next week is going to be announcement week. So, as you can imagine, the market's kind of holding its breath. Everybody's just bracing themselves to see what's going to happen. One of the things we're going to find out, as a matter of fact, on Tuesday, is the updated ban and restricted list. That could have a huge impact on the market, potentially. Other things we're going to find out are sets that are going to be coming out over the course of the next 6 months or so. That could also have an impact on the market. And a lot of other information I'm sure will be coming out. So, having said that, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find a couple ways to help support the channel. One of which is our Amazon affiliate store. If you make any purchases there, whether it's singles that you see here today or anything else, a small percentage will come back to help support the channel. Always goes a long way. And another way to support us is through our Patreon page, which is also linked down below. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the cards for today, and we'll begin, as we always do, with Standard. And we'll look at the cards that lost value this week. There's a little bit of variety here, starting with number 5. Dread Wanderer. This is only down 90 cents to $4, so not a huge loss financially, but percentage-wise it's decent. Now, the mono-black zombie decks are having a hard time right now in that Standard meta. It's due to the fact that there's cards out there like Sweltering Suns, as well as Chandra Flamecaller. They're just holding the decks back quite a bit. So they had their high, obviously, after the Pro Tour, but there's been a pretty sharp decline in their percentage of the field since then. You're going to see that reflected in some of these key cards like Dread Wanderer. Coming in number 4, Gideon of the Trials, down $1.08 to $11.90. So Gideon continues to fall. Kind of same story every week here. Came out of the pre-release really overpriced, and it's starting to get down to the point where I wouldn't be surprised to see this card below $10 within the next couple weeks. Still hasn't really found a foothold anywhere. It's seeing a little bit of fringe modern play in like some control decks, but not a whole lot at this point. Now, this is a card to watch for the future, and once this card does get below $10, picking up a playset maybe just to have for post-rotation might not be the worst idea in the world. Coming in at number 3, Liliana Death's Majesty, down $1.10 to $12.45. So another card that's been on the list for a number of weeks now, continues to go down, and much like Gideon, just hasn't found a foothold. Originally, some players thought that this would fit into the Zombies deck, but really, she got beat out by Liliana the Last Hope, which is a better fit for that deck. And again, other than some fringe modern play, like sometimes you'll see this card in like a mono black devotion deck or something like that, she really hasn't seen much play. Coming in at number 2, Torrential Gearhulk, down $1.22 to $22.90. Now, here's a card on the opposite end of the spectrum. This card is seeing tons of play. It's in the Marvel decks. It's in the control decks, the Isn't control decks out there in Standard. So this is a card that's going to continue to be popular. It's powerful enough to, I think, always find a home as long as it's Standard legal. And it is declining, though, because the price point is just very high right now. Around $23 is still high, considering the amount of cards that were printed in Kaladesh. Even Mythic Rares, it's going to be really hard to keep them up into the $20, $25 mark. So over time, this will continue to decline. Players that want this card will get this card in their collections. They'll hang on to it for the life of Standard, and there'll still be plenty of copies out there in the marketplace. So I do think this will continue to slowly tick down, no matter how much play it does see. And finally, coming in at number 1, Relentless Dead. So we're kind of back where we started. This card is down $1.35 this week to $14.25, but another one of the zombie cards that is declining due to the fact that you're seeing less of those decks in the meta. Alright, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. Now, much like the last 2 weeks, this is really the third week in a row that the gains are very, very slight. So you're going to notice that as we get through the list to our top gains. Coming in at number 5 is Spirebluff Canal of 14 cents to $8.46. Now, not a very large increase, but it's at least an indication of how popular this card is right now in the Standard meta. A lot of the really good decks are running this because they're running these colors, and some of the Marvel decks obviously will be running this. You'll see this show up at energy decks, control decks. Is it control is kind of the chosen control colors right now when it comes to the meta. So yeah, this card's going to continue to see a lot of play. Coming in number 4 is Chandra Torture Defiance at 15 cents to 20.99. Another card that's seeing a lot of play right now. It's showing up in many Marvel decks, again, energy decks, as well as Mardu Vehicles decks that are still hanging on out there, and actually doing pretty well. Coming in number 3, Sweltering Suns, up 19 cents to 3.61. Another key card that's showing up, not just in Standard, but getting a little bit of modern play in Titan Shift, too. Coming in number 2, Barolo Chief of Compliance, up 38 cents to 3.29. So a couple of things going on with this card. It's seeing a little bit of modern play right now in the Gift Storm decks in Modern. So that's actually kind of interesting and has been a recent role for this card. Secondly, though, it's great in Commander. This card's seeing a lot of Commander play. So between the two of these, you're seeing a little bit of a price jump. Now, granted, it's very small at 38 cents, but percentage-wise, this is a nice chunk of the total value of the card. So that is worth noting. And I do think this will continue to be very hot in Commander as time goes on, especially 1v1 Commander, which has a new spotlight thrown on it recently due to its development in Magic the Gathering Online. And coming in at number 1 is Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, up 78 cents to 24.93. So Ulamog's been slowly decreasing the last couple weeks, gains back a little bit of what it's lost over those weeks. But again, very popular card right now, obviously, in those Marvel Works decks. The big question mark hanging over all these cards' heads this week in Standard is, will there be a change this Tuesday in the upcoming ban and restricted list? Could this card potentially be banned? Could Marvel Works be banned? Could nothing be banned? No matter what happens, there's going to be a big fallout in the world of Standard finance for sure. All right, let's move on to Modern. And again, Modern is pretty sluggish this week, with a few exceptions, but let's see what's losing value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Liliana of the Veil from Innistrad, down $1.56 to 85.04. So you're going to see this on the list. There's a lot of the key Jund cards that are at least ticking down slightly. And I think that's partially due to the fact that Jund is not quite as popular currently in the Modern meta as it was maybe just a couple months ago, where all these cards were going up in value. So they're stabilizing back down now, and they're seeing a little bit less play when you look at the overall percentage of the field. I think a lot of Jund players have just moved on to like Death Shadow and stuff like that. What's interesting is a lot of these cards are still seeing play in other decks. You're seeing them show up in some of these Death Shadow decks. You're seeing them show up in Abzan. You're seeing them show up in a number of other places. But just because a lot of the Jund players maybe are moving on to different things, probably means there's some extra cards right now in the market. Liliana won't be the only one that kind of fits that category today. Coming in number 4 is Damnation from Planar Chaos, down $1.74 to 37.05. Now, another card that took the hit due to less Jund being played out there in the meta. But this card's still seeing play in Abzan decks and Jund decks. They're still out there, but just not in the same quantities. Coming in number 3, Engineered Explosives, down $1.77 to 56.85. Now, this card is still seeing play in a lot of places, not just in Modern, but also Legacy. So I do think this is just kind of normal stabilization for this card. It did spike about a month or two ago pretty heavily, so I think this is just stabilizing to a normal price point. Coming in number 2, we have Tarmogoyf, 2 versions of it. We have the Modern Masters 2017 version going down $1.66 to 81.25. With the Modern Masters version going down $1.81 to 99.99. So another card that's still seeing a lot of play. It's showing up in some of the Delver builds in Legacy. It's showing up in Modern builds all over the place still. But again, a card that maybe is taking a little bit of a hit from the Jund situation right now in Modern too. This is a very popular Jund card. So I do want to point out though too, there's a big price disparity between the Modern Masters and Modern Masters 2015 versions of this card, which run about $100, sometimes $110, and the Modern Masters 2017 version running around $80. As a matter of fact, if you look at the big marketplaces, you can probably find this card cheaper than $80, maybe closer to $70, $75. So that's pretty affordable for a Tarmogoyf, and if you're in the market to pick them up, this could be a good time to do so. Coming in number 1, Dark Confidant. Again, 2 versions. We have the Modern Masters 2015 version losing $1.45 to 45.10, and the Modern Masters version losing $1.89 to 45.49. Now, this card, out of all the ones we saw today, is probably taking the biggest hit due to the fact that Jund is seeing less play in the format. This card does see play in other places, but not as much as the other cards we looked at today. All right, let's look at the top 5 cards that have gained value this week, starting with number 5. Crucible of Worlds from 5th Dawn, up $1.87 to $64.80. So, of course, this is a very popular card and continues to still creep up even to this day. I will caution you, though, there's a chance this could show up in Iconic Masters. It has not been truly reprinted in a very long time, since 10th edition. And when I say truly reprinted, that's something that I mention sometimes on these episodes. I'm considering actual full set release printing, so I'm not thinking about promos or masterpieces. Yes, of course, it has seen printings in those capacities, but they don't really impact the market for the most part. Some promos will impact the market more than others depending on print run, but for the most part, the print runs on promos and masterpieces are so low, I really don't take those into account. But having said that, since we haven't seen a true print run of Crucible of Worlds since 10th edition, and it's a very popular card in a lot of formats, I would feel like that constitutes as perhaps iconic. I guess we'll wait and see. Coming in number 4, Surgical Extraction from Modern Masters 2015, up $2.18 to $21.53. This card continues to be hot. It saw a nice spike a few weeks ago. It did snap back a little bit from that spike, but since then it's been slowly climbing and it's building more momentum. It's a phenomenal card in Modern, shows up in a lot of places. Coming in at number 3, Chalice of the Void. And we got two versions here. The Meriden version up $1.87 to $68.54, with the Modern Masters version up $2.22 to $71.72. This is another card that could potentially show up in Iconic Masters. Again, it's been a while since we saw a true reprinting of it, which would have been the Modern Masters version. But it's still climbing because it's seeing so much play, not just in Modern, but also Legacy and even Vintage where it's restricted. But it's just a very, very good card, and players are comfortable spending $60 to $70 for it, obviously. Coming in at number 2 is Thoughtseize from Lorwyn, up $5.68 to $38.15, and I actually think this was a long time coming. Thoughtseize is the best version of this type of spell that's out there for Modern. So a lot of players are realizing that now, gravitating back towards it. Of course, part of this jump is due to the fact that it belongs in those Death Shadow decks, which are very popular right now. A lot of casual players especially buying into that deck. It's put up great results at tournaments, but it's not just that deck. This card's showing up in a lot of different decks, and it's phenomenal. Now, those of us that played Modern back before Theros came out, before this card was reprinted in Theros, we remember when this was like a $50 card, $50, even $60 at one point. Now, Theros brought a lot of new copies into the field, and that brought the price down even of the original version with different art for a while, but I think those days are over now that that Theros version is starting to be diluted more and more as time goes on in the marketplace. Now, this could be an Iconic Master. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but at least for right now, I think this was going to continue to trend up pretty quickly. Coming in at number 1 is Aethersworn Canonist. Second week that this has been on the list. We have two versions. Modern Masters up $7.26 to $15.81, with Shards of Allura up $7.29 to $15.25. Now, this is a card that's being driven not by Modern, but by Legacy. And Miracle's decks are still alive and well, actually doing very well. And I think that surprised a lot of people. They started to jump off that deck, and then when it started putting up good results, even without top, I think a lot of folks decided to jump back on or gravitate towards that deck. And because of that, this card is definitely seeing a nice little spike. Secondly, though, it's not just all about Miracles with this card. It sees play in other popular decks in Legacy like Death and Taxes and Esper Deathblade. Alright, let's move on to the world of Legacy. And a lot of the usual suspects are going to show up here, but there's at least one notable card to talk about. We'll see that in the next list. But coming in at number 5 is Tropical Island from Unlimited, down $10.04 to $384.37. Number 4, Gauntlet of Might, down a little bit this week, $10.76 to $192.39. This card seems to hang out around the $200 price point, though. Number 3, Underground Sea, again from Unlimited, down $19.95 to $530. Coming in number 2 is Jihad, down $20.89 to $53. Now, this card spiked last week, so as expected, we're getting the snapback this week. But honestly, I think over time, this card has potential to go up in value. So if you can find copies of these for $40, $50, they may go down over the next couple weeks, potentially. But beyond that, into the future, they could be good pickups. And coming in at number 1 is Scrubland from Unlimited, down $23.47 to $149.96. Alright, let's look at the cards that gained value this week. Coming in number 5, another dual land from Unlimited, Volcanic Island, up $25.08 this week to $449.99. Coming in number 4, Living Plain, down 37.75 to 175. This card has been trending down for about a month or so, starting to kick back now. Coming in at number 3 is Sinbad from Arabian Nights, up 41.49 to 47.49. I want to point out this is not a reserve list card. This has been reprinted a couple times. You can find cheaper versions of the card out there. This feels like a buyout to me, so expect this to snap back over the course of the next week or two, or even month or two. But it's an interesting card. I will say that. Again, it's an Arabian Nights card. Those are very, very hot right now among collectors. It is a card that could see some play in 93-94 format on occasion. So it's one to watch, but I do think this is going to go down. Don't pick this up at the $50 price point. Coming in number 2, Badlands from Unlimited, down 43.18 to 215. And finally, Jazam Jin, up 67.57 to 535.03. This has become our new Tabernacle of Pendrell. This card shows up on one of the 2 lists every week, it seems. Sits around that $500 price point. Now, had a pretty big spike this week, but I do think we'll see a snapback, and I think this card will continue to sit around $500 for at least the foreseeable future. Alright, having said that, that's the market watch for this week, so it's going to be a big week, obviously. Now, of course, we'll cover all the announcements this week. Tuesday will be of special note to folks that follow the market, because that will be the banned and restricted list update, and we'll find out really what the market's probably going to look like, at least over the course of the next week or two. And a lot of things that we see next week, like I said at the top of the show, could affect the market. What new products could be coming out, as well as some Hour of Devastation previews that we'll be seeing at the end of the week. So I have a feeling next week's Market Watch might be a lot more volatile than the last few weeks. So we'll have to keep a close eye on the cards as we go through the week. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.